Hey guys, for acronym lovers, I'm AC. This was my preferred branding at GSK, where I was leading the compliance, QMS compliance programs and learning management programs. And lately at UCB, leading the regulatory intelligence process across the enterprise. So building on my industry experience, I joined Redica Systems in January 2022. And I took over the regulatory intelligence mission to continue to pollinate your industry gardens with great data to help you drive quality, right? So I'm so glad and excited to have the opportunity to expose some of our content to you, because I keep in mind I was in your shoes, right? Not so long ago. So in the next 30 or 40 minutes or so, we will walk through our top 10 crispiest signal of the summer or winter, depending on your location. And so I will leave Michael introduce yourself and the company.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michael de la Torre. I'm the CEO and founder of Redica Systems. I'm very close to the data and product decisions since since we kind of relaunched the company, a handful of years ago as Redica Systems. So I'd like to just next slide. So for those of you guys who aren't familiar with us, we are a data analytics platform that provides quality and regulatory intelligence for life sciences. So basically what that means in a nutshell is, we do proprietary data sourcing across, a number of agencies for, regulatory changes, inspections and enforcement, and those kinds of activities. So we primarily help in three ways. One is, inspection intelligence and inspection preparation, then vendor quality and kind of supplier management and monitoring. And then the third piece is really regulatory and standards monitoring and the workflows around that. That third piece is mostly what we're going to be focusing on today. And as Anne Caroline said, we're going to be doing a retrospective of some of the most interesting things we saw over the summer. So just next page. So who we serve. So I mentioned we serve life sciences, but basically we serve everything, companies from kind of the preclinical stage, clinical, and then in market up to some of the biggest pharmaceutical and biologics and med tech companies in the world, and then also serve various service providers, law firms, consulting firms, etc. So next slide. And so the data that we are going to be going through is really a number of different sources. So we're monitoring over 1,500 individual sources from over kind of 200 plus agencies and standards bodies, and they fall into a number of categories. So you have agencies and rule makers like the FDA, PMDA, China, Health Canada, et cetera. The different standards bodies, so PICS, ICH, WHO, ISO, things like that, harmonization organizations, news and journals, trade associations, et cetera. So it's a very, very broad set of external signals that that a life sciences company needs to be aware of, right? So not only those agencies and standards bodies that are driving your authoritative sources that are defining your quality system, but then also everything that really fits around that, where you're sort of in market or running clinical trials. What makes our platform kind of unique and differentiated is, we really try and eliminate the spam. For every 1,000 changes from regulators and standards bodies, maybe 5% matters. And so we've really tailored the system to be, fast, complete, label really well, fast translations, fast change comparison. So you're just going to see a little bit of that today. Like I said, Anne Caroline's going to walk through the which she calls crispy. So the cool, interesting signals, from this kind of full scope of coverage. Next slide.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Anne Caroline.
Yeah. Okay. Also today, we will be focusing on human drugs and industry, human drugs and biologics industry, and GMP, GDP scope. so-called manufacturing quality or pharmaceutical quality system, if I steal the FDA language with pride. But let's acknowledge some other scopes are very much interconnected when it comes to product quality. Like it's not just RACMC, but today we will also be touching on pharmacopoeia a little bit and HSC, environment, health and safety that impacts manufacturing quality. We will span across our top 50 regions and countries and our key content types that matter to you to drive actionable intelligence. Ignoring for now the news piece, but acknowledging our Redica application does capture the news piece to put regulation in full context and to highlight crispy events, okay? So our regulators are never pausing. Really, they keep us awake every time. And so out of the 400 signals that our tools are triaging every day, every week on average, across multiple geographies, sources, industries, scope, we have applied our filters to match our scope. And from this picture, we selected our top 10 crispest signal that enlighten our summer or winter, right? And so here is the footprint of our corresponding authoritative sources. And so here we wish to showcase the regulation landscape diversity, but also some interconnections between the regulators. You will see that. So we will talk through these signal through the eyes of our Redica application, so you can get a good flavor of how powerful our application is to capture the essence of the changes, but also drive actionable intelligence through appropriate tags and labels. Okay. So why not start with our noisiest signal of the summer or winter, our favorite GMP Annex 1 that has kept us awake for years with a couple of draft iterations, right? Nearly 12 or 13 draft iterations. And we had to anticipate any major change. If you are leading sterile manufacturing, I'm sure you have already prepared your change control to deal with such turmoil, but also to put in place your contamination control strategy. It's worth highlighting that this signal may apply to non-sterile manufacturing, okay? Whatever you decide, the regulators will expect you to justify your strategy, and they will like to enforce any best industry practices. Let's move to the US now. With the FDA guidance for preventing cross-contamination in non-penicillin beta-lactam drugs manufacturing facilities. Ultimately, this is all about protecting patients from such compounds because they can cause allergic reactions to patients. So this guidance makes a real distinction between non-antibacterial drugs and antibacterial drugs, okay? And it does apply to drugs and biologics. Remember, many biologics, many antibiotics started as natural product, and many still are today. As you can see here, it's a bit hidden by my face. We provided a handy track change version to allow you to quickly understand the differences with 2013 draft. And here again, it's quite a big evolution between this version, this final version, and the draft version, okay? Let me go back. Now with China, a significant portion of our summer-winter bucket can be attributed to China Pharmacopoeia that issued a flurry of monographs and standards for comments and all associated rules, explanatory notes, guidelines that goes with it. Okay, a variety of topics. And so they really wanted to keep the manufacturer's attention high and our attention high, just because we had to make sure to collate, translate, and assemble all the pieces of the puzzle. And I'm picking one example here that is part of a big family. As you can see here, it mainly impacts pharmaceutical packaging, so mainly GMP area. So we had like 63 signals from the China pharmacopoeia, a significant work. On the international scene, more and more requirements around data integrity, as you know, are flourishing. And so coming hot on the heel of the FDA, WHO, MHRA, PICS, and GAMP, Russia is now speaking up loud. So their new data integrity and CSV, computerized system validation guidance, is really applying to all records impacting GMP processes, from data generation all the way to data archiving, whatever data are processed manually or electronically. And it does apply to all computerized systems that can impact GMP. The guidance here explicitly mentioned that it can be voluntarily applied to each and every area of good practice. So good distribution practice, good clinical practice, good laboratory practice, quality control, and so on and so on. So it's a true GXP guidance in its scope. Okay. I think this signal is a good one from an early stage of the regulation life cycle, just because it helps anticipate requirements. So this is the EMA concept paper on the chemistry of active substances that highlights the need to revise the associated guidelines. And one of the main root cause for the revision was the need to better manage your impurities. And, you know, this was due to the nitrosamine saga, right? And so this concept paper has been out since July for comments. And based on the feedback the EMA receives, they will issue and prepare a new draft and then publish for comments for another period of 6 months. In the same vein, be aware that the EMA has just issued 2 other concept papers about development and manufacturing of peptide and oligonucleotide. Okay, so same thing, concept paper to announce the revision of such guidelines. I'm pausing a bit so you have time to see how it looks like. Okay. Let's move to our harmonizers. Not surprisingly, cell and gene therapy has remained high on the agenda, and really in all regions, the regulators are developing new requirements. So this WHO guideline is not meant to provide a comprehensive overview of all requirements applicable to advanced therapy, medicinal products, ATMPs, or HCTs, human cell therapy. Rather, it's really WHO current thinking in this space. But still, it's very valuable because it highlights some of the fundamental principles of cell and gene therapy regulatory landscape. Okay. It's a very good one to have a comprehensive overview. All right. Oh, my favorite, titanium dioxide saga. This is maybe the crispiest or maybe the tastiest signal because it all started with M&Ms. And I was supposed to be a chemist, so I think I owe you a little bit of scientific explanation here. So you may know that titanium dioxide is a common additive in a lot of food and consumer products, ranging from food and cosmetics all the way to personal care. So toothpaste, for example, paint, adhesive. It's used mainly as a whitening agent, coloring agent, and as a pigment in paint. But it's potentially carcinogenic, okay, so toxic. And we all love chocolate, right? The fact is, chocolate products that has a hard outer shell are likely to contain a higher concentration of titanium dioxide. So a chocolate bar could potentially contain more titanium dioxide, less titanium dioxide than M&Ms. So I hope you will continue to eat M&Ms, because the thing is, the European Food and Safety Agency has just recommended to ban this food additive, okay? And so the EMA followed this recommendation and say, hey guys, if it's banned in food, so we should be careful because we apply titanium dioxide in a lot of medicinal and veterinary products. But you can imagine, if titanium dioxide is banned in a few years, it has an immediate and significant impact on the industry, because it's very difficult to find alternatives for titanium dioxide, okay? So it's really about the industry making a good assessment of the risk benefit. I think this signal is a very good demonstration of how a requirement popping up in one industry, here food, can affect the other industry. So here the pharma industry, and it can affect multiple disciplines. So our HSE colleagues, because they have to take care about health of people, things that are toxic. Our GLP colleagues, because they have to study carcinogenicity of titanium dioxide and alternatives. But also, and most importantly, the development and manufacturing people, because they have to evaluate the impact, the feasibility, and the cost if they have to reformulate all their products to find alternatives to titanium dioxide. Okay, so a very big saga and more to come. So Turkey, so maybe less tasty signal, but still worth shining a light on, because we should not underestimate Turkey as an influencer in the regulation landscape. You know what? They often come up with their own flavor to cascade international requirements. So here we are coming with their own GDP guideline. Here you go. Remember, they were not the last ones to come up with their specific requirement for nitrosamine. So really, they have a say on the international scene. Let's recognize Turkey as, you know, very well-structured documents. So it really makes your day and our day to find out what has changed or what is new. Go back now. Remote inspection, or FDA would say remote evaluation, not remote inspection. It has been a hot topic since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, as you know. And by the way, let me show you that. We have populated all related signals under one theme, remote inspection. So it's very handy for you. If you look for these signals, you have all at your fingertips under this theme here. Okay. So let me go back to this presentation. So FDA has been really fiddling or juggling to adapt to the new normal. So this guidance on conducting remote regulatory assessment or inspections is really an achievement, because they were able to translate their experience into real written recommendations, as you can see here. So the comment period of this guidance is now over, so we can expect really further development. I don't know if you had a chance to attend the annual PDA FDA conference in Washington, DC in September, but there was someone asking the FDA, hey, does RRA, so does this guidance apply to animal health veterinary products? And the short answer is yes. And why? It's because when it comes to GMP and product quality, a lot of guidances are also applicable to animal health, of course, to protect them. All right. Now, I'm sure you master the ICH guideline life cycle. And if you don't master it, no worries. You can go to the ICH website and they give you a good overview of all the steps you can expect for the development of a guideline. And so here, during our summer, our ICH Q14 and Q2R2, but our analytical guidelines were issued for consultation. So they reach what we called step 2B, and that means that regulators adopted it to launch their consultation and to follow their own timelines of consultation. Okay, so never too late, the FDA came up with their own consultation thing after all others. And now if you go to the ICH webpage, you will see all the consultation periods that are showcased. Okay, so I am reaching the end of this presentation, but all this crispy and tasty signal would not exist without our teams and our subject matter experts that really help us find meaningful structure in unstructured data. They bring their human touch and their deep knowledge and expertise to add crispy flavor to the regulators' one-size-fits-all summary. And this is just for your delight. So I hope you really enjoy this summer-winter retrospective. It was meant to warm you up, but also to wait. So now we are, taking your questions, if you have some.
Okay, thank you both for that presentation. When you registered for the webinar, you had some form questions. We asked you what themes and scopes you're interested in, and then if you had any questions pertaining to this webinar. A lot of you had pretty specific questions that we'll be following up with afterwards individually. But if you would like to get anything answered right now, please do enter it in the chat or the QA feature. We do just have one question. How does Redica Systems gather its signals?
Michael, would you like to take this one, or should I take it? You are on mute, Michael.
Yeah, happy to take that question. Really, across our data sources, there's different things that we do. So broadly speaking, there's kind of two things that we do. One, we are the #1 Freedom of Information Act requester for a number of agencies. So we get signals on inspections and enforcement primarily through Freedom of Information Act. The second is we are also scraping. So we have a number of tools, some automation, and then a whole lot of humans that go gather signals from the health agencies themselves. So whether they're different feeds or dashboards or individual pages. That's what kind of drives the 1,500 individual sources. And we have some automation that lets us know when there's a change to that page. And then we have a workflow that passes it through, layers of enrichment. So be that need to translate, sometimes it needs to do, text extraction, sometimes it needs to do change compare, labeling processes, et cetera, through our content operation. So long story short, Freedom of Information Act, and then we also have tools to sort of scrape and crawl agency websites.
Thank you. Another question, can you pop back into platform and show the themes that Redica Systems has?
Sure thing. So we have populated a couple of themes here. These are meant to be like hot topics in the industry, like themes that are applicable to all industries, okay? Not very specific topic, but as you can recognize, these hot topics, right? Nitrosamine, COVID-19, data integrity, all these themes are very high on industry's agenda. Also environmental sustainability. And recently, we will be applying these new themes. So you are the first to see that. Diversity in clinical trials, you know how important it is. And we could see that, right, in the Ukraine's situation now, that they are putting efforts to welcome these people and to make sure that we have a good representation in clinical trial. Also real world data, real world evidence, software in a medical device. We have it along with software as a medical device. So we already covered a lot of themes.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, next question from the audience. This one's a little long. So it says, you informed us of a new Russian data integrity guide. Of course, there are data integrity guides from multiple agencies and industry groups. Do you offer a comparison service where you can identify the differences and specific needs of any agencies that differ from one agency industry group to the other?
That sounds like a good idea. This is the kind of enrichment that we can do through our expert brigade. I have to say we don't have so many data integrity guidance spanning across GXP. Most of them are GMP, but we have, as I said, we have WHO, MHRA, PICS, GAMP, and now and the FDA, and now Russia. Where indeed we could see how this compares. I like this thing, and I can keep a note on that.
Okay, thank you. Next question, AC. How many regulators and agencies are followed by Redica Systems, and are they the same as those in enforcement analytics?
You want me to take that in, Caroline?
Yeah. I think you started to elude that questions, but please go on.
So simple answer is, hundreds of regulatory agencies and bodies. So, so not only the major ones like, we're covering the United States. I believe there's something like 10 different sub-agencies and subparts of the FDA, DOJ, things like that. So, these things are somewhat difficult to count, and it almost feels like you're double counting in some cases. For example, Germany has a number of different regional agencies that we're also following too. So when you add them all up, it's hundreds. So well north of 300-400 on an individual basis. But kind of if you think about just countries and standards bodies, like 150. So all the usual suspects of where global pharma is doing business, and then all the standards bodies and publishers that matter. So we do have complete coverage from that perspective. Then with respect to our inspection and enforcement data, we get it from 4 agencies primarily. So Health Canada, FDA, MHRA, and EMA. We're also exploring other agencies through Freedom of Information Act, but that's as of yet not in our data platform.
Thank you, Michael. All right, next question. Do you think the FDA will increase focus on GDP? Have they, So that's a little strange. Do they have guidance similar to EU GDP in 2013? I can re-say that. I stumbled a little.
No, that's okay. I think what is hot on the FDA agenda, as you may know, is the FDA Supply Chain Act that will put in place or enforce serialization in 1 year from now, right? In 2023, it will become a reality. So they are adapting all their guidance around that, like clarifying terminologies for all GDP actors like wholesalers, retailers, repackers, and so on and so on. And you can find these in our summer. It's not in our summer retrospective here because we could not cover all the great data, but it's there in our Redica application. We did capture the most recent updates on the Supply Chain Act and how the FDA is getting ready to really improve the supply chain and the track and trace thing there. I don't know if this answers the questions, but this is the best of my knowledge regarding supply chain and GDP for now.
The person who asked the question said thank you, so I think you did answer it.
Okay, all right.
All right, we'll wait a few seconds to see if there's any more questions coming in. Okay, all right. I think that might be all the questions right now. If you have any additionals after we end the webinar, you can reach out to anyone at Redica and we'll get you to the right answers from the right people. Michael and AC, thank you for the presentation today. Do you have any last comments to add?
I'll just add the comments. So thank you for, the opportunity to present, our platform and what we do. We're quite proud of this solution and really trying to simplify, all of these agencies, all of these changes and whatnot. And we've really done our best to try and make a tool that is really fit for, quality professionals looking to stay on top of the global changes and just make it easy, make it intuitive, make it easy to stay on top of things. There are other tools out there, but they're really more built for regulatory affairs. And so we felt we really tried to, like I said, simplify, make easy, and kind of give you that peace of mind that you're not missing anything and that everything's kind of popping right into your feed. So hopefully you guys agree with what you've seen so far, and we would love to talk to you to see if we can help.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everyone, for registering.
Yes. Thank you both. And remember, you will be getting an email with the copy of this presentation. So we will talk to you shortly and have a good evening or day.
Bye for now.
Bye.